Are you feeling sore? We can make that better. Tune in to the Ateneo Senior High School's first radio program, SOAR, the Seniors On Air Radio, where you can listen to music you want straight from our playlists. Don't change that channel yet, because SOAR is ready to put the you in youth. SOAR, Seniors On Air, here on radyo-katipunan 87.9 FM. The Jesuit Hour.
Wait, what? No! Let's try that again. Join the fun bunch of the Hugot Hour with Father J-Boy as we talk about anything and everything under the sun. Share your everyday Hugot moments and everyday Hugot quotes. G, tara na! Usap tayo. Bring your own baon, bring your own Hugot. The Hugot Hour with Father J-Boy and friends gathers every Monday at 6:30 to 8 in the evening. Only here on Radio Katipunan 87.9 FM. Want to find out more about the famed org community of the Ateneo?
Yeah.
Wondering what projects and initiatives our student organizations are currently up to? Curious to hear the perspectives and motivations of the different people that make up the org community? Tara na't magkwentuhan! Kwentuhang MVP takes you to the vibrant and passionate organization community of the Ateneo de Manila. Tune in every Friday as we catch up with our student leaders and our organizations and find out how they're continually pushing forth with their advocacies. Kwentuhang MVP, taking the MVP to you.
To listen to music that uplifts the soul, follow jescom.ph on Spotify and Jescom Music on YouTube. Our music is also available on iTunes and Deezer.
Welcome to The Rundown, where we take you right into the action with the latest sports news, updates, game previews, breakdown, and analysis in, around, across, and beyond the Ateneo. And now, let's get ready to run down!
Getting reliable health information about the COVID-19 outbreak can be a lifesaver. Rumors and false information can help further spread the virus. To counter this epidemic, it is important to rely on information coming from professional and ethical newspapers, TV and radio channels, and news websites. Quality journalism is now more crucial than ever. During the COVID-19 outbreak, only trust official information sources and credible media outlets. Do not share unverified information. This is a message from UNESCO.
Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Follow at Radyo Katipunan in our social media accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter.
Mamangha sa lalim at ganda ng ating kultura at diwang makabayan sa mga salita at pahina. Sa tulong ng mga guro at manunulat ng panitikang Pilipino, halina't tuklasin ang yaman ng ating panitikan, ang pamana ng ating lahi. Ito ang Sari-Sari, tuwing Miyerkules, 11:00 ng umaga, dito sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Iwasan ang pagkakaroon at pagkalat ng sakit na COVID-19. Palagiang maghugas ng kamay. I-check ang temperatura para sa lagnat. Umiwas sa matataong lugar. Iwasang hawakan ang mukha kapag hindi pa nakakapaghugas ng mga kamay. Iwasan muna ang pagyakap, beso-beso o paghalik sa ngayon. Maging maingat, maging ligtas.
Basta't laging handa at sama-sama, kaya natin to. Hatid sa inyo ng PCOO, DOH, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
Jesuit Music Ministry, music that uplifts the soul. Follow jescom.ph on Spotify and Jescom Music on YouTube. We are also on iTunes and Deezer.
Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay atenista sa loob sa labas ng eskwela. Ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
If it's entertainment you crave,
catch us on
New Wave, surfing through the latest on our shores.
every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m.
See you there. Hello everyone! Good afternoon! Coming to you on radyo-katipunan 87.9 FM via Zoom. I'm Max, and when it comes to what's happening, I'll serve you the facts. So please take this hour to sit back and relax because this is New Wave. And today, we're celebrating our first anniversary. So we have officially began riding this wave for a whole year. And in that year, so much has happened. Things have changed. A lot have stayed the same as well. Every week, we learn from the best people, laugh with each other, and just make the week a little lighter, especially since we're right in the middle. So from this side of the screen, it feels like both no time has passed and that so much has happened at the same time. Regardless, the pandemic has kind of been hard on all of us in different ways. And to me, this was always such a breath of fresh air. And I genuinely hope it was for all of you as well. So anyway, I also really love how this show begins in March because as we know, there's always a lot to celebrate. Women's Month, which is coming to a close as we record this, and of course, our 1 year celebration. So we really wanted this episode to be very special, memorable, and something we could carry with us as we head into the next quarter of the year and even beyond that. So you may notice that it's nighttime for me, and that's because today's guest is on the other side of the world. Today, we welcome a trailblazing filmmaker who has shared her work both here and abroad. You've seen her in movies such as Lingua Franca and Señorita, which she also directed. You may have seen her shoes on Mark Ruffalo's Instagram feed, and you will see her today to talk about her career and learn about her exciting upcoming projects. So everyone, please welcome Miss Isabel Sandoval. Hi!
Hi, Max. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I'm so thrilled to be here.
We're so excited to have you. So how are you and how are things on your side of the world?
I'm doing fantastic, actually. I am a week away from working on a new TV series in Atlanta. I'm currently based in Raleigh, in North Carolina. I used to be based in New York City for 15 years when I first moved from the Philippines to the US. But when the pandemic hit, I have a cousin who lives in North Carolina with his long-term partner, and they've been asking me for years to visit them. And I finally, I thought it was the perfect time to just get out of the city. And I end up liking it a lot here.
That's great.
It's, so quiet and, private. And I feel like the older I'm getting, I'm really getting to appreciate just the solitude and the privacy that you need to be able to be creative and, focus on creative projects.
Of course. So are we allowed to ask you about your upcoming project already, or is it still under wraps?
All I can say is that it's a sexy, elevated YA thriller.
Ooh, that sounds like something.
Yeah.
All right. So reading biographies is often different from hearing the story from the source. So please take us to the beginning of your journey all the way to when you were here in the Philippines. And if I remember correctly, you're from Cebu.
Yes, I am from Cebu. I was born and raised in Cebu. yeah, and one of my earliest childhood memories was when my mom took me to this movie theater in downtown Cebu on Colon Street. And, these were the movie palaces that were built around the Second World War during the American occupation. So they were quite grand and quite majestic. And I think they were demolished or kind of repurposed in the early part of this century. And I remember seeing a movie when I was 4 starring Dolphy.
Oh.
and Vandolph, like a 5-year-old Vandolph. And it's called Bata Batuta. I now remember, after all these years, what the name of that movie is called. But it's really quite a nondescript comedy. I just remember being dazzled and mesmerized by these gigantic images projected on screen. And that got me started on my, romance with the movies. And
Amazing.
I went to school at Sacred Heart School Jesuits. So
okay.
I went, which is considered the Ateneo de Cebu, I think.
Yes.
I went to school there from kindergarten through high school. And then I was actually accepted to Ateneo.
Oh!
I ended up not going. I
Yes.
signed up for like environmental studies.
Yes.
I ended up staying in Cebu and went to University of San Carlos. I studied psychology, so that was my undergraduate degree. And after that, I worked for a year at Unilever in Manila. So I did brand management. That was really my background. But the whole time I was, just so enamored and enthralled with cinema. Growing up, I was used to like the melodramas that were based on comics, starring the likes of Sharon Cuneta, Maricel Soriano. And then I think, as I grew older, my taste in films just became more discerning and sophisticated. And that 1 year that I was living in Manila, I went to Quiapo and came across all these pirated DVDs of classics and works of, either Hollywood classics or works of foreign cinema, world cinema, Kurosawa, Wong Kar-wai, Rainer Werner Fassbinder, Kubrick, and that got me into art house and foreign cinema for real. And while I was in Manila, I applied to business school. I applied to the likes of Harvard. I flew to Hong Kong from Manila to interview for the Harvard Business School and got shortlisted.
Wow.
I ended up getting accepted into the NYU, the New York University. Stern Business School for an MBA degree. But also, in the back of my mind, I wanted to go to New York because that's where the capital of independent filmmaking here in the US. And
for sure,
that's exactly what happened. I went to business school at NYU. I got to intern for companies like Focus Features and the Weinstein Company. I never met Harvey Weinstein.
Right.
And that year, in the summer between my first and second year at NYU, I was part of a class that flew to the Cannes Film Festival. And that was really my first time at a major international film festival. And I think that solidified in my mind the decision to pursue filmmaking, to become a filmmaker. And so after I graduated, I decided to take the plunge and make my first short film, which is Senorita, which I then expanded to my first full-length feature, also the same name. And a year after that, Senorita premiered at a prestigious film festival in Europe called Locarno, and a lot of alums of that festival actually end up graduating, quote unquote, to the big three, European film festivals like Venice, Cannes, and Berlin. And less than a year later, after Senorita premiered, I made Apparition, which is chillingly enough about the year leading to the declaration of martial law in the Philippines in 1972. So it was set during the senior Marcos's administration, and it's about these cloistered nuns who find themselves under siege in the midst of the tumult, leading to the declaration of martial law. And after that, so when I made those two films, I was actually based in the US, but I flew back there to shoot them. And then after Operation came out, I decided to, lay low and underwent my gender transition. And at the tail end of my transition process, that was when Trump got elected, to the president.
That's in 2016.
And that was also when I was writing Lingua Franca, and that's when the whole premise and the story of Lingua Franca came together. It's not, autobiographical in that I'm not exactly the character there in the film Olivia, but I certainly channeled my psychological and emotional state during the early months of Trump's administration while making Lingua Franca, and just grappling with the anxiety and the uncertainty and paranoia about what it means to be a minority under that administration. And Lingua Franca eventually premiered at the Venice Film Festival, and I think that's got Lingua Franca really represented my breakthrough. I think in the industry, it was. It ended up getting acquired by Ava DuVernay's Array distribution company. Was nominated for an Independent Spirit Award, and that also got me represented by CAA, the Creative Artists Agency, and I have the same agent as Taika Waititi.
Oh wow!
Patty Jenkins and Ava DuVernay, and my agent happens to be Filipino American as well.
So that's
I'm
great.
Really thrilled and honored to be to be working with her, Romina Arguelles. And and now here we are. I am a few weeks away from premiering the series that I directed, starring Andrew Garfield and written by the award winner Destin Lance Black. Won an Oscar for Milk. It's called Under the Banner of Heaven, and it's premiering stateside on Hulu on April 28th.
We're so excited for that, and we're so excited for you. But most of all, we're so proud of you. Like hearing your story and how big of a role the Philippines really played in it. That was so cool. Like when you were saying movies with actors that we're familiar with because we see them over here. Like that was very cool. And you're making a name for yourself here. You've made a name for yourself here. You're making a name for yourself abroad. We are so proud of you. Like as Filipinos, it's so nice to see you soar, and we have nothing but support for you. And I think it's so cool that we were almost schoolmates, alma mater mates.
Hey.
That's a branch of Ateneo. So I guess welcome to Ateneo. Welcome back. I want to go a little bit deeper into your influences before we dive into your work, which I'm very excited for. So who are your influences? Like, who are your influences growing up? And like, how did they help you shape your passion or your style in filmmaking? So these can be a mix of local filmmakers and foreign filmmakers.
As when it comes to Filipino cinema, I've always been a huge fan of Ismael Bernal. I think even more than Europa, to be quite honest.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, his works, his masterpieces like Himala, and his back-to-back like relationship dramas with Vilma Santos, Sean and Broken Marriage, and these were in the early 80s, and I just find his aesthetic and sensibility quite urbane and sophisticated and European. I mean, I love Lino Brocka's work as well, of course, and his social realism, which really influenced a lot of a generation of Filipino filmmakers in the last 50 years. But I, personally gravitate more towards Barnell's work. I also, during my formative years as a filmmaker, and this was when I was in high school and college, Wong Kar-wai's work has been a major influence. Films like Chungking Express, In the Mood for Love, and Happy Together. I was also, quite taken by the work of Pedro Almodovar. At that time, he had All About My Mother, Talk to Her, Volver. So and for a time I was also big into the work of Cassavetes. And in fact, while I was making Apparition, I was also heavily into my Ingmar Bergman phase. And he does a lot of these very somber, sometimes bleak and dour dramas. And that certainly factored into the mood and the atmosphere of Vaparishan as well. So my taste is quite eclectic. It certainly leans more towards art house, more mainstream filmmaking. My style certainly diverged more pointedly from mainstream Philippine cinema and even to a certain extent, independent Filipino filmmaking with apparition.
Yes.
And yeah, so those were my major influences.
Now that you point them out, I actually see that. Like, I was watching the Mew Mew film. I was watching Shangri-La earlier today, and I really saw that. I was like, wow, this is like something that I would have watched for one of my film classes where we talked about a lot of the directors that you mentioned. Like, it really fits it. It really fits in with their work, and I found that cool and actually very refreshing to watch because it's not a style we've been seeing, at least here in our part of the world. It's not a style we've been seeing a lot in the recent years, but it's one that's very, for me, engaging to watch because it's such a good story to follow and it's a very different means of storytelling. So that being said, as a director, how does one learn to direct? Like, are there technicalities? Since I see now you've graduated from business, how does one learn to direct?
It's funny because I didn't go to film school, so I don't have a traditional film background or education. And I think it should really be quite, organic. I mean, I'm lucky in that something that I'm passionate about, like, movies and filmmaking is also kind of the same area that I have a certain bit of talent in. And I feel like, you just have to have that passion and inclination and talent in you. For me, it's, I remember as a kid, I remember when I realized I was creative, my outlet would be I would dream up, I would imagine these, scenes in my head, not words on a page, not still images, but like scenes that I'm stringing together.
Visuals.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I feel like I am an editor for, first and foremost. And the reason why I put on the multiple creative hats that I do in my work, writing, directing, and sometimes acting and producing, it's because those roles will give me exactly the raw materials that I need as an editor to make the film that I imagine in my mind to begin with. And we don't get to choose our interests and our passions.
Very true.
They happen to choose us. It's very random and arbitrary, but that's how it is. And what I wanted to do as a filmmaker is really explore and dig up what about my voice and my style truly feels unique and singular and distinct. I don't want to simply regurgitate or repeat what other filmmakers are doing and doing well. And that's kind of been my approach, with my films and how I'm trying to carve out my place here in the industry is to lean into what makes me truly, an individual, what makes me unique, and express and manifest that through my work.
Yes, and I think it's very clear. And actually, this brings me to a question I was going to ask you about Shangri-La, because I remember being so amazed that the first title card in the end credits is written, directed, and edited by Isabel Sandoval. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is amazing. And that sounds so hard to do because having one role on set is already so difficult and such a big responsibility. And you did all three, which is my gosh, that's a superpower on its own. So would you say, since it helps you bring out your vision, would you say having multiple roles on set makes it easier or more difficult for you to bring out this vision?
It makes it easier for me, at least. I don't necessarily think of them as having, as different jobs or roles in the film. I have one role and have one goal, to create an emotional experience, through the medium of, cinema. through a visual medium. I used to say before, like telling stories, but sometimes, cinema is not just about plot, but it's about a feeling, a certain feeling that you're trying to elicit and create in your audience. And as I mentioned, when I pursue a film project, I have a very precise and specific vision of it in my mind. And I take on those roles because those are integral to me ensuring that I translate my vision, from the page to the screen as faithfully as I can to the original vision that fueled it.
All right. So you already touched a bit on Senorita earlier, but this is what I want to start with because it started as a short film. Like that's what it was first released as. And then a little later it became a feature film. So what prompted this choice or this decision in its storytelling?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been, because as I mentioned, I didn't go to film school. I was never really exposed to short films, to be quite honest, because when we're used to watching full-length movies, on TV, when we go to the cinemas, never shorts. But I decided to make a short film first as a kind of proof of concept that I can make it into a feature film and that I, not just bullshitting people and I actually know what I'm doing. And that's helped me in just getting my work out and people knowing that I'm a filmmaker. But when I first conceived Senorita, it was really a full-length feature. Then I kind of brainstormed on how to do it first as a short, what story it would have that would make it work and as a short film. But from the start, it was always conceived as 100-minute feature film. Incidentally, I'll be acting in my next feature, Tropical Gothic, as well, which is an allegory of colonialism and imperialism. And it's what happened to the Philippines under both the Spanish and American rule. So I'm back in the Philippines again for my next film.
Oh my gosh, we are so excited to have you back. And I love that you're making a movie about Philippine history because, that's a conversation I have with a lot of my friends. Like, when we're in school, we're like, you know what? We need more films to watch about Philippine history because it's such a rich history. Literally, so much happened. And I think more people should know about that. And what better platform than a film? That's going to be so exciting. Moving back to Shangri-La, actually. So I know that this kind of took place in the States, but there was something so Filipino about it starting in a confessional. Because, I guess me, growing up in, Catholic school after Catholic school, you're surrounded by churches, you're surrounded by things like this, like confession. And the one of the hangout places me and my friends would go to is a park, a church with a park beside it. So, the fact that the two characters were meeting up in church was very relatable because that has been a recurring theme in a lot of our lives. Like, oh, where are we going to meet up? We're going to meet up in front of the church. And I found that so cool to see on screen. So with this, what would you say is the Isabel Sandoval touch in your films?
Yeah, I feel like, if I were to step back, and just evaluate my work from an impartial I think, and how my work has also evolved, in its sensibility is that I'm drawn to narratives, and themes that have a strong or pointed political underpinning to them. And those themes are melded with a style that's not, didactic or a bit heavy-handed, but subtle and nuanced and infused with, a lyricism and a delicacy and a sensuousness. And I think that's apparent in Lingua Franca. And I intend to push that aesthetic even further and in a bolder direction with Tropical Gothic.
You said you enjoy these narrative type of stories, and I really see that actually in your films. The narrative really pushes itself forward no matter how long or how short your film is, and that's not something I see in everyone's style. So I guess as a director, and the storyteller, how can one push their story forward like this? Or how can one challenge themselves?
And this is just from my own experience, is that
Yes,
you
yes.
have to, treat yourself and, broaden your, I guess, aesthetic and artistic horizons by,
Yeah.
experiencing and watching works
Yes.
of auteurs and
Mm-hmm.
masters. Essentially, seek out great, compelling, powerful art, in cinema to be specific. And when you're engaging with art, where the artist really pours themselves into the creative process to come up with a work that's original and quite radical and innovative, I think that certainly pushes you as an artist, both
For
in
sure.
terms of the possibilities and potential of the art form and the medium that you're working with. In my case, it's cinema. And yeah, essentially have a diet of art, that's truly spiritually, artistically nourishing. And that is how I think, what inspired me and influenced me to also create, work that is interesting or
Yeah.
does something new. And it's not just, cliched or formulaic
Yeah.
and repeating, essentially ideas or images that we've seen countless times. I'm bored by a lot of mainstream films, that are, from the first frame you know exactly, the different beats
Mm-hmm.
that it's going to hit and where it's going to end. I feel like
Yeah.
life's too short to be wasting time on garbage.
Yeah.
But not to like sound silly, but yeah, because I'd like to think of myself as, as a genuine artist, and there are a lot of, genuine emerging artists in the Philippines
Yes,
as
yes.
well, and we should hold ourselves to a high standard, and that's
It's very
what
true.
I attempted to do in my work, and I think that has a lot to do with kind of the strides that I've made in my career in the last few years, for sure.
Yes, and rest assured you are doing amazing. So now we are heading into the next project, which is the one that will be released at the end of April under the banner of Heaven. So, as you said earlier, this is starring Andrew Garfield, and it's his first TV role, as I've heard. So, what was this like, and how did it come to be?
Um, I was in Venice. I was premiering Shangri-La
Oh,
actually at the
wow.
film festival when
Yeah.
my agents at CAA,
Mhm.
reached out to me and said that I have an offer to direct a TV series.
Mm.
And I've never really directed,
Yeah.
TV before, episodic TV. And when I look at the project, I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, this is, I mean, it's, yeah, Andrew Garfield, Lacey Edgar Jones, Sam Worthington, and
Yeah.
it's written by Dustin Lance Black, who wrote Milk. And I was,
Yeah.
I was, after Venice, I went to Rome. I was like, is this for real or
Such a
is this
dream.
how you guys? And then, I interviewed for it. I wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
really expecting, a lot, to be honest, because it was my first,
Uh-huh.
TV episode, and the hurdle is really getting to direct your first TV episode, and then after that it becomes easier for you to take another work, and especially because
Ah.
my background, is
Yeah.
not only the movies but
Mm.
independent movies. But Lance saw Lingua Franca and
Mhm.
loved it, and that was the reason why I was, being interviewed for the series. And I also talked about apparition and how, a kind of religious zealotry or
Mhm.
fundamentalism can get in the way of people's morality
Oh.
and, sense of right. And that's essentially the same theme as Under the Banner of
Mhm.
Heaven,
Yes, yes.
but it's, from the perspective of Mormonism. And after he lands, and Anna Culp, the executive producer from Imagine, which is Ron Howard's company,
Yes, yes.
saw apparition as well. they, made me an offer officially to come on board as a director for Under the Banner of Heaven. And it was shot in Calgary in Canada late last year. And, it was a truly rewarding experience of working on it. Lance has been, I could not have asked for a more supportive mentor and showrunner for my first TV job. He made me feel so at ease working with these veteran, and industry professionals. Andrew was such a dream to work with.
Wow.
He is, meticulous and very professional and on top of his, on top of shit, really.
Okay.
An actor. And I was directing the penultimate episode, the second to the last episode.
Yes.
And he is definitely, he knows his character, Jeb Pyrie, inside and out. And, Sam Worthington and Daisy Edgar Jones, they all have different, processes when they're acting. And what was important for me, kind of, doing a good job on the show was making sure that I sat them down and, asked them how I, as a director, could best support them in their own process and help them bring out their best work, and their best performance. And, just having that conversation really set the tone in terms of a working relationship. And allowed me to make my episode, not only, efficient, it was shot on time, on its schedule, but also one of the most emotionally gripping and poignant and moving episodes. And this is what FX told me, episodes of this series. And I'm never gonna not be proud of that. I'm so grateful and thrilled to the makers of the show for giving me the opportunity. And that's how I'm now, I'm about to work on a second TV show, and I am up for 2 other TV shows right after that, where I will be working with, more Oscar winners and Oscar nominees.
Oh my gosh, that's so great.
Fingers crossed I get those jobs.
Yes, we'll be right behind you, supporting you. And actually, while you were talking about like everything going on for Under the Banner of Heaven, I'm going to expose everyone else in Zoom. They were just sending me shock emojis, cry emojis, like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. And oh my gosh, we're really looking forward to seeing the series and to seeing your episode. That's going to be so nice. I'm sure it's going to be like a masterclass in filmmaking, like hearing you talk about it now.
It's
gonna be so cool. But one thing that stood out to me also is how you really wanted to sit down with the actors and talk about your game plan. Like, I think that that's something that's very important when you're on set. Like, okay, what's the plan? And the fact that you want to know what everyone thinks and get everyone's input to bring out the best of the material you guys are putting together. Because it also kind of translates when you watch, like as an audience member, when you watch the show, you see it. You see that teamwork and you see that story brought forward. So with this in mind, when you direct stories written by other people, how do you carry out your vision along with the writer's vision, and in this case, along with the actor's vision? Because as the director, you're the one putting all of this together. So how does all of this like go together?
Yeah, I mean, how it works, when you're directing, episodes in TV, in the US, it's really the director of the pilot episode, the first episode, that sets the tone for the show. In terms of its visual language and its pacing, its rhythm. And if you're directing one of the later episodes, it's about striking a balance between having your episode, still be of a piece with the rest of the show in terms of its, of its imagery and its rhythm, while also kind of infusing it with your distinctive, and signature touches and flourishes. And in my case, like with my episode, Under the Banner is really more of a procedural, slash mystery thriller
Yes,
type
yes.
show. And it's been compared, at least from the trailer, to the likes of True Detective or
Yes, actually, I
Mindhunter.
see that.
But my episode happens to be the most, I think, introspective and quiet
Mhm.
of the whole series, in that three of the main characters kind of reach uh, moments of catharsis, and their emotional arcs peak, in my episode. And also it's a show with three different timelines, so really juggling multiple narrative threads. And for
Yes,
me,
yes.
I didn't want the audience to lose focus that the one important emotional arc and dramatic arc that really grounds the show, and specifically my episode, is that of Andrew Garfield's character. So, visually setting the tone, I open it with a tight shot of Andrew, essentially turning around
Ooh.
and looking at the menacing, trees outside a window of this house, and closing it with a tight shot of him
Ooh.
um, experiencing a kind of emotional breakdown. Yeah, and yeah, those are the kinds of flourishes and yeah touches that you do as a filmmaker, so that it still bears a kind of stamp that's specific to you and your sensibility, while being cohesive, as an episode
Yes, yes.
with the rest of the series.
All right. Wow. We can't say this enough. Everyone is so, so, so excited to see this. So,
So am I.
oh my gosh, like we
Yeah.
really cannot wait. Especially like now, we're not as open as other countries yet. Like most of us still aren't back on campus. So what really keeps us company are the things that we watch. So this is definitely going to be something we're all adding to our lists. So, in your own words, maybe summarize into 3 words. Describe your episode and what we should look forward to in 3 words. Let's go.
um, Haunting, chilling, and heartbreaking.
Wow. That really took a turn with the 3rd word. I was like, okay, very true detective description words. And then
Yes.
heartbreaking, like, okay, now I'm kind of scared, but still, we're still looking forward to this. From your perspective, back to your own storytelling, what other stories need to be told? Like, this can be stories that you want to tell or stories that you think like filmmakers should really shed some light on.
Um, yeah, I feel like, especially, having grown up with Philippine cinema
Mm-hmm.
and been very much, familiar with, independent Philippine filmmaking, I feel like it's truly exciting and invigorating to see works like Whether the Weather is Fine,
Mm-hmm.
by Kapamanatad, and the winners at Sundance, Noir Will Never Die, I think, right?
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
title. And that we are breaking out of and diverging from uh, a sensibility that's steep, that's very much entrenched in a social realist tradition. I feel like it's time for Filipino filmmakers to try out, other styles and aesthetics, and really
Agreed.
explore what makes, our voices unique. And I'm not saying that,
Yes. Yes.
social realism is not good art, or
Mm-hmm.
powerful art. I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying that it is, like we have Nino Broca, and we
Yeah.
also had, for a while, the works of Brilliante Mendoza.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it's also time for us to truly innovate, creatively.
Yes,
As
that's
I
right.
mentioned, cinema is an emotional experience. And I feel like sometimes social realism or neorealism
Mm-hmm.
might be used or leveraged disingenuously by some festival programmers to simply focus on narratives about the Philippines that um, reinforce, our
Yes.
traumas. and our feeling of marginalization, and victimization. And what I tried to do with Lingua Franca, of course, it still touches on the struggles and the plight of an undocumented Filipino trans woman, but it's also about her agency, her self determination, and her, for instance, ability to express desire. And there are multiple facets and aspects of our lives and experiences and a perspective that are worthy of being depicted and conveyed and explored, more than just the focus on how we're marginalized or victimized. I'd like to think of the work and the art that I make to be not only damning critique of the status quo or the problems that are besetting us as a people, but also calls to action, of
exactly,
and give us a sense of our potential and possibility as Filipinos and as human beings.
Yes, that's so true, because there are so many stories here in the Philippines that should be told, and people should see this. It can't just be us fighting for certain things. We also need help. Like, there are these causes that do need platforms, that we do need to elevate, and Filipino filmmakers can do that. On that note, how can we be brave in our storytelling?
In my experience, it's not to shirk away from themes or stories that people, especially people in industry, might think might be too niche or too inaccessible or unrelatable, just because it's your personal experience. And especially when you hear that as a minority, there's a tendency to and a temptation to kind of submit or to buy into that, those words that invalidate your experience and your point of view. And if there's anything that I can describe about myself, it's stubborn. I am hard-headed. And especially if someone tells me that I can't do something, that's even more encouragement, to push me into doing it. And that's what I did with Lingua Franca. We had my creative team and I had multiple pushbacks, like, we need to have more scenes or moments of actual physical violence against this trans woman, which is a trope, and kind of a very common cliche about how to tell stories with trans characters, especially in the US. And I was like, fuck that. Sorry to use that word, but I'm not gonna. That's not the story that I'm gonna tell. I'm gonna tell a story about this particular character that hasn't been told before, and certainly not in this style, and in this point of view. And that's what I did. And because I persevered and stood my ground and pushed for the film that I wanted to make without compromise, that allowed that resulted in a film that, as I mentioned, created an emotional experience that's really quite unique, and distinct, and in certain ways radically different from what is being made and what exists in contemporary American cinema. And that's allowed me, as a result, as a filmmaker, to stand out, as someone who has an interesting, original, and vibrant voice that I'd like to think more people, want to know more and hear from. And that's how I think I got these opportunities that I now have, and that I didn't, just listen to other people's, suggestions and creative interference to make my work, more palatable or safer or compromised, because all I have is the uniqueness of my identity and my experience. And I don't want to shy away from that because that is actually what gives me my power.
Everything you said, like that in itself is already like very good advice for aspiring filmmakers. Like how we need to fight for the stories we want to tell also. I admire your conviction in wanting to tell these stories. Like I think that's something we really need in order to like kind of move forward and to tell more types of stories as you said earlier. Now is the time for me to call the students. So we'll start with Therese. So please turn on your mic and your camera.
Thank you, Max. Hi, Isabel. It's so lovely to meet you. Um, so I just wanted to ask, like, what values has filmmaking taught you over the years? And as a filmmaker, as an artist, when do you feel most fulfilled?
The values that I, kind of learned and inculcated as a filmmaker over the years is just, kind of pursuing or trying to be experimental and, not shying away from taking, risks creatively and artistically in my work, and just, the reward that comes when you're trying something new, either, in terms of, shots, to be specific, or themes, and kind of knowing that you are innovating the medium or kind of helping it evolve, through your work as a filmmaker. I mentioned before that, I'm bored by just repeating things, ideas and images that have been done, countless times before. And if I, spend a lot of time and effort in making something, in creating a work of art, I want it to be something that feels its own thing, an original. And even though I might fail, at that, I can say at least that I attempted something bold and daring and something new. And the only failure is really not learning from something, and not being because I feel like even I feel wiser, after a failure than after a success, to be quite honest. And in terms of what makes me feel fulfilled is if I, especially for personal projects and projects that are labor of love, is I feel like I was being authentic, as an artist, and that I never compromised my own vision, especially if it's a vision that might be very different from the conventional or the typical expectations that people have. I take pride in doing something that feels truly invigorating and refreshing, and that takes ambitious risks. I'd like to think that, for every new feature film that I've done, I took on a different kind of risk. It was ambitious, more ambitious than the last one. And that is certainly true with Tropical Gothic. There's a temptation, especially when you have like an art house or independent film, acclaimed independent film in the US, that your next project should be like a studio superhero movie. But I'm also, but that's why I'm being very discerning about what my next movie would be, because once the studio project that you works on flops, it's going to be very difficult for you to work, after that and have another studio project. And so I want, if I do a studio project, it needs to feel like something that I can really, have a personal stamp on, that feels uniquely mine. And yeah, and I think in terms of my wheelhouse, genre-wise, I would pursue, more dramatic films, either mystery or thriller, because that's the kind of storytelling that I'd like to think I excel in. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's being able to say that I was able to make the film that I dreamed of making at the end of the day.
Thank you for that, Isabel. I'm definitely taking all those to heart. Yeah.
Especially the line where like you said after every failure you feel wiser. That is really something we need to take to heart, especially at this age when sometimes you have a tendency to feel like, oh gosh, I did not do well, it is the end
Yeah.
of the world. No, we need to remember that.
Yeah.
Ian, you're up next.
Hello, ma'am. It's very nice to meet you. So my question is, beyond watching films from the Philippines and making films about topics that convey Filipino sensibilities, what does it mean for you to keep and honor one's heritage with them as they go out in the world?
For me, I've said somewhere else that you can take the Filipino out of the Philippines, but you can't really take the Philippines out of the Filipino. And yeah, for me, it's, and as an artist, as an auteur, sometimes the themes that we're drawn to they happen subconsciously. They seem to be, about a subconscious issue or theme that are unresolved in us. And it just happens to be that I'm still, despite having lived in the US for nearly 20 years now, I still find myself revisiting themes and heritage and lore that is rooted in my Filipino upbringing. And having grown up there, certainly, they've evolved over the years, like my relationship with religion. Our country is predominantly Catholic. And if I may, say so, sometimes theoretically so, but, and I've come to a point where I feel ambivalent about, Catholicism and about religion, for instance, and that, sometimes religion gets in the way of our morality and how to actually be a good person. So yeah, I like to think I'm not just blindly celebrating, our Filipino traditions and culture, but grappling with them and, questioning the aspects that seem quite, problematic and troubling and fraught, while portraying, Filipinos and Filipino characters as complex and layered, and nuanced, so that we just don't end up being like, a stereotypical or one-dimensional minority, and especially when we're dealing with diasporic or immigrant characters in countries like the US, but that we are, certainly complicated animals and organisms. If that makes any sense. I hope I'm not just babbling.
That really does. Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
All right. Last, we have the brothers Mcgoy and Zoe Arroyo. So, Mcgoy, you go first, and then Zoe.
Hi.
Hello po, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
It feels like the two things you're known for on film Twitter is first being a filmmaker and second being a champion for sensual cinema. As an artist and as a viewer, what do you find fulfilling about exploring and viewing sensual films?
Yeah, it's more about films that deal with desire. And I've mentioned, the films like In the Mood for Love, films like Claire Denis, like Beau Travail, just because I feel like that's what draws us to kind of luxuriate and bask in the images of cinema. It's that desire to see beauty, to see love and romance. And that also is, I think, this concept of desire is, I think, what liberates, my character, Olivia Lingofranca, and from being just, a victim and a marginalized character, is that a minority character has the capacity to desire something, and that ability to want something, to crave something, to desire is, I think, the strongest and purest, evidence of agency. And so there's something definitely political, in my stance about celebrating the expression of desire in cinema, especially for minorities, because that ability to desire something is what gives us our selfhood and agency and identity. And also, yeah, I mean, I would rather watch a movie where I vicariously, and indirectly feel like, I'm either lusting over something or falling in love over something, because yeah, it's such a wonderful feeling. Like, the works of Wong Kar-wai are essentially a distillation of that particular feeling, in different shades of it. And in The Mood for Love, to be specific, makes heartbreak the most glorious and luscious feeling there is. Certainly more than, and that's why I feel like films that also, are about desire, especially when they're repressed and not, consummated and, fulfilled, are the films that truly stay with you and haunt you, because they feel like, unresolved puzzles. And if we don't walk away from a cinematic experience where, there's that buildup of that tension and that catharsis and release, and we can just, put that behind us and move on. If there's something that feels unresolved about that desire, it's what keeps us coming back to it. It's the cinematic version of The One That Got Away. And it's these works that, linger and haunt us, certainly, I will be thinking about In the Mood for Love until the day I die.
That's actually one of the movies that they make us watch, both for English and for like our film classes, because of all the feelings you feel when you watch it.
Yeah, and that's also, what I try to do with lingua franca, in that it's not a clean, neatly tied up ending, because, first, the problems that it touches on continue to this day, but also because I wanted the characters, and especially Olivia, to stay with the audience and to continue to like haunt and linger. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you for your answer. It's very insightful.
My pleasure.
Your turn, Zoe.
I rarely get starstruck in my life, but as someone who is going to study film, this is like such a big deal for me, being able to meet and hear a actual filmmaker talk about their art and their passions. This is like really a big deal for me. So my question is, having recently seen two of your feature films, Senorita and Lingua Franca, and your short film Shangri-La, an element across those films that I latched onto and found compelling was the idea of role playing. You wrote this terrific line in Senorita that goes, "I'm nobody to you, therefore I can be anybody." And it struck me as a line that was both tragic yet freeing. In Senorita, you play a prostitute who role plays her clients' fantasies, and she's also involved with a local election campaign. And there's also a scene where that character role plays as a beauty pageant contestant. And in Lingua Franca, there's a scene where Alex approaches Olivia at a bar and pretends to be a stranger, and Olivia plays along. And in your short film, Shangri-La, your character role plays a confession with the farmhand Samuel. Is that a coincidence that role playing pops up so much, or do you find the idea of role playing to be interesting or compelling?
Yeah, that nice catch though, by the way. And I feel like, those are the kinds of kind of themes and turns in my work that I just quite organically and intuitively gravitate to. Certainly the role playing, I think it has to do with me being a Pisces too. And that, having like a secret self or secret identity that we keep, like, a kind of divergence between a public self, and a private or public persona and a private self. I think it has to do, if I were to like psychoanalyze myself, with me kind of being protective of who I am, privately, versus kind of my public persona, being an introvert. And yeah, I'm drawn to characters, especially women who are navigating two different realms, own worlds, either spiritually, politically, and sometimes these worlds are clashing against each other as well. And in Senorita, for instance, it's the contrast between the quiet life in the province, between from kind of the messiness and the chaos of what it's like in Manila. And in Lingua Franca, there's her being in the US versus, the Philippines. And, in Shangri-La as well, it's like the glum reality of their lives as farmhands during Great Depression in America versus just the kind of romantic grandeur of playing these, lovers in the confessional. And yeah, I like contradiction. I like paradox. I like secrets. And that's why I feel like if I have to like pin down a certain genre that best embodies my aesthetic, it would be film noir, actually, because these are characters with shady pasts, and their past comes back to haunt them. And I definitely want to make, a film noir in the future, maybe something that's drenched in, eroticism and darkness.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
We're getting a lot of agreement in the Zoom chat. So everyone, thank you for your questions. Now, before we go, since our time is almost up, back to you, Miss Isabel. What does empowerment mean to you, especially as someone who has been elevating so many voices over the years?
Empowerment to me means taking a big risk and maybe going against traditional and conventional wisdom to do something that hasn't been attempted before, especially if it means drawing on, your personal experience that may have been disempowered or marginalized, and finding in it power and redemption and agency. It is incumbent upon us as minority artists to not, let ourselves and our, vision be whittled down by something that is safe and mainstream. If that ends up, or that results to kind of diluting and watering down what makes our experience truly distinctive and singular, and just pushing on and having faith in the notion or the wisdom that even though our attempt, might fail, what is important to begin with is taking that big important step of attempting something, and learning from it and doing something better and in the future. So yeah, in a nutshell, is to not back down and to take a plunge, if you feel like you're doing something and you're pursuing, artistic project that truly feels bold and daring and radical.
We all need that right now. So to lighten things up, when you fly back to the Philippines, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Especially if I'm in Cebu, I'm going to have some ngoyong. So that's the very first thing.
What's that?
It's a kind of lumpia. It's very particular. Ngoyong or lechon. So
lechon. Oh my God.
That's how I empower myself, by eating my favorite dishes growing up. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And then I read this story a few years ago called Where's the Patis, where they said what truly connects people from a country to their country is their stomach, of course.
Absolutely.
Yes. Apart from what we've talked about now, maybe we can talk a little more about Tropical Gothic. What is next for Isabel Sandoval?
I hope to shoot Tropical Gothic later this year. I am now, working with a US producer that I really respect and admire, and it's tropical Gothic is set in the 16th century in the Philippines, but it's not strictly a period piece about Spanish colonialism. It's inspired by the piano and Hitchcock's Vertigo and also Phantom Thread, but is a piece that really grapples with and questions the role of imperialism and colonialism in our modern world. Yeah.
As I said, that's something to super look forward to. All right. But unfortunately, our time is up. So before we say thank you properly, what's something you want to leave with our audience?
Yeah, seek out exciting, original, great art, and be nourished spiritually accordingly.
Once again, this was our part 1 of our anniversary special. Thank you, Miss Isabel Sandoval, for being here. We learned so much. So thank you for spending your morning with us. And as I said earlier, thank you for elevating all of these voices, for being such a great filmmaker who has brought our stories farther than we thought they could come. Us as a country, we are so proud of you, and we will have your back always.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted and pleased to be here with you all.
Thank you for being here again. And thank you to Tani Cohen for also helping us put this episode together.
Thanks, Tani.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
If it's entertainment you crave,
catch us on
New Wave, surfing through the latest on our shores.
Every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m.
See you there.
Radyo-katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo-katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo-katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, radyo, katipunan. Sa Blue Eagle kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay at tenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng kwela. Radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, radyo, katipunan, radyo, katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, katipunero sugod, todo sa kayon, tulong at tulong. Lipat na Blue Eagle, galing giting nagigil. Blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan.
Get your daily dose of inspiration through our music. Follow jescom.ph on Spotify and Jescom Music on YouTube.
Do you have concerns or problems about the school? Pag may dilemma, huwag mag-alala.
Sabihin sa sango, pag may dilema, huwag mag-alala.
Locate our boxes around campus and simply fill out the forms in the stations. Drop them in the box and boom, you're done. You can also fill out our forms online.
Sabihin sa sango.
This is a service brought to you by your Sangu. Pag may problema, huwag mag-alala.
Calling on all young male professionals. Do you wish to live an extraordinary life? Are you tired of the routine and mundane and long for a dynamic, adventurous, and even dangerous life? Do you wish to make your life count and hope to make an impact long after you're gone? Do you wish to live a life of service to society, to country, and to dear Mother Earth? Then you are the one we are looking for. Consider the Society of Jesus. Join the church's gallant army and turn your world upside down. Call the Jesuits Vocations Promotions Team 426-6101, local 3406. Once again, 426-6101, local 3406.
Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM. Palalimin ang kamalayan sa mga isyong napapanahon. Makisangkot at makiisa kasama ang simbahang lingkod ng bayan. Ang Socio-Political Apostolate ng Kapisanan ni Jesus. Ito ang Kwentuhang Bayan mula alas 11 ng umaga tuwing Biyernes dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Dahil naniniwala kami na posible ang isang mas mabuting lipunan at maaari itong simulan sa isang kwentuhan. Meron? Ano nga ba ang meron? Paano nga bang mabuhay ng tapat sa meron? Don't you wish you can relive your philo classes? The terror teachers? The terrible oral exams? Or the even terrifying but liberating and life-changing aha moments? Lundagin mo, baby! Here's your chance! Lundagin mo, baby! Kasama ang mga pilosopong sina Jovi Miroy at Ron Capinding. Lundagin mo, baby! Leaping upward, leaping forward. Lundagin mo, baby! Leaping to greater heights, to greater wisdom, to greater magis. Lundag na, Ateneo! Radyo Katipunan is now online. See our live feed on facebook.com/Radyo Katipunan. Check out our Instagram and our Twitter at Radyo Katipunan and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Radyo Katipunan FM for more exclusive content. Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan, the voice of the Blue Eagle.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
If it's entertainment you crave,
Catch us on
New Wave, surfing through the latest on our shores.
every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m.
See you there.
Hi, everybody. David Pomerantz here, and I am celebrating along with you New Wave's anniversary 1 year. Pa-pa-da-pa-pa-pa. New Wave anniversary. New Wave anniversary. Everyone loves New Wave, and you too. It's a you finish the song.
Relax. Once again, this is New Wave, and I'm back for the second part of our anniversary special. So, I'm very excited for this. We already had a good conversation here on Zoom, and now we will be getting to the next part. So, our next guests are a vocal group that I have a very personal connection with. I've known them for years, listened to their songs, and I've seen a lot of their concerts, both online and off. They are known as Asia's premier vocal group and have brought home many awards while making people smile since the start of their career, which has roots in Ateneo. So please welcome Mr. Moy Ortiz, Miss Sweet Plantado, Miss Annie Quintos, and Mr. OJ Mariano forming the company. Hi, everyone, and hello, Tito Moy's dog.
Good afternoon, Max, and good afternoon to all of your viewers. Happy anniversary. This is Blanquita. She insists that she'll be part of today.
Hi, Blanquita. We are very honored to have you in our presence.
Hi, Max. Thank you
Alright.
for having us on your anniversary
Hi.
show. Wow. Salamat.
Thank you. We're so glad you're here. So, all of you, what have you been up to this past month? I've been seeing that it's been a very busy past few months for all of you. So Tita
Iba-iba.
Sweet, you start. Or Tita Annie,
Well, as
go
in
ahead.
teaching you. Ang weird kasi that's the background pag nagka-class ka with me. Anyway, happy anniversary to you
Thank
and your
you.
program, Max. And thank you for having us. For many months, we have been busy since latter part of last year, recording our newest baby. It's a full album under Star Music. It's called Gitna.
Yes. Gitna is a beautiful album. I've been listening to it, and I have my own stories to share about it later.
Thank you.
Now, as I said, the company has roots in the Ateneo College Glee Club. A while ago, Tito Moy even said, "Oh, our real major was Glee Club, and then our minors were our courses." And I want to hear a little more about that. How was the group formed?
Yeah.
Or
the group,
Annie, go ahead.
Yeah, the group was actually formed as an offshoot of after we had actually I had left college, I had graduated, and we were starting to work now. There was this longing to continue singing since it was something we did 3 times a week, 3 hours every meeting. So it was like a major part of our schedule, of our week. So there was there was a void that we needed to fill. So we decided to meet. There were 12 of us in the beginning, and but then we'd meet every Friday after work. But then it wasn't going anywhere. So one of our members then, Kathleen Nang Villalon, her family owned a restaurant, Italian Village in Makati. Where she said, let's sing na lang there, let's have a set, and then we can only pay you with pasta and pizza, and which for us was fine. So it started there, and then a good friend of the group, Ryan Kebiab, took his then girlfriend for a date, and that's where he heard us as a group. And he said, can I use you as backup singers for Celeste's show at the CSCP? Who wouldn't say yes? So we did. And then from there, we had more shows as backup singers at first. So I think it took about 2 years later when we started to have, we would request to be guests, frontliners as well. And so that's where it started, in 1985.
Wow. All right. So I'm actually very curious about the name, because I was also told that the T and the Y have to be capital. So what's the story behind that?
I chose the name. Sorry, babe. I have to work. It's time for Love and Kiss. I chose the name Company because yung kwento ni Annie was that we started out as 12. We were a cappella group, and no one auditioned. So I said, this was the real barkada from the Ateneo Glee Club. And so we were real friends. No one auditioned. So sabi ko, with that is very similar to the Stephen Sondheim musical called Company, because it's about friendship, it's about relationships, it's about marriage, it's about commitment. Sorry,
No worries.
So
yes,
we said Company best described that group, but we had difficulty because the name was just too generic. So our managers for 10 years, our first manager, Louis Reyes, who is a jazz singer and recording artist, and her husband, Cesar de la Fuente, said, put an article, The Company. It's instead of, because we really started out calling ourselves Company for the first 3 concerts. Yung sabi ni Annie na backup of Celeste Legaspi, the second show, we did a show in Ultra. Ultra is University of Life in Pasig. So we were backup of Nanette Inventor, Jaja Padilla, Martin Rivera, Gary Valenciana. Apat, dapat. And then the next month, we were doing a Valentine concert with Kula Desma. And they would just put Company. So people weren't sure if that was At Iba Pa Company or The Company. So we put The Company. And then I decided to capitalize the letter C and Y for
Yes.
visual branding because that's the problem. The name is just too generic. So since that time, we've never changed the logo and the
Yes,
font.
yes.
The font is Avant-Garde MDBT. It's a very versatile font. It's very
Yes.
minimal and versatile because it's not trendy. It doesn't date us. So up to this time, yung Kwento ni Sweet, we just released our 29th full album. We have always used our logo in all of our albums. So it's a matter of visual branding. Other groups who have that, the group Chicago, they always keep on using that. The group Side A, the group The Carpenters. So it's very, very important that you build your brand also visually. Sorry for the long answer.
No problem. But Tito Moy, a while ago, you told me that we're course mates. You were AB Com in Ateneo as well. And when you were saying that, I remembered like the lesson we had in one of our com classes about stickiness factor and how it has to be both something you hear and something that's visual. So I was like, yes, we are course mates. You understand. It came out of class. Oh, hi, another dog.
Introduce your baby.
Yes, please.
Nala.
Nala.
Oh, hi, Nala.
1 year old on Earth.
Not yet.
Oh, wow.
9 months.
Almost there. My fur baby is in the other room.
Oh, we could have a fur party. We could have a fur baby party. Nala,
Of course.
my dog Enyo says hi. In 3 years, if you want to have a date, you can.
Wow, everybody. Well, you heard it here first. And before I want to continue to our audience, the ones tuning in now, please don't forget to comment your favorite songs by the company so that we can make sure to get into them later and ask about their stories. Now, I'm also glad that the play by Stephen Sondheim was brought up because, fun fact, the last time I saw Tita Sweet and Tito OJ in real life was in the play company. So, and I was a little like, oh, they're in the company and they're also in the play company. So that was like a fun coincidence. But since then, we have graduated. Well, not really graduated, but we've had to transition to shows and things like this online. And within these past 2 years, I've seen a lot of your shows and they're always so fun. Like that one concert where you were carpooling, you were in the car, and then like you had like these different stops. It was like a road trip. And I really enjoyed that concert because like number one, the music was so fun. Number two, it was like vicariously living because we couldn't go anywhere at the time. So with all of this in mind, how is it like preparing for shows like this and rehearsing as a group? Because like Glee Club days, of course, you're all together, you can be in the same room, you can hear each other because you're right beside each other. But online, do you rehearse through Zoom? Do you also get to meet up? How does it work? Yes.
We never rehearse on Zoom because we would never be together anyway. But yes, we had a lot of meetups with the group, especially when we couldn't leave our houses.
Yes.
When we were so unsure of what we were dealing with and did not want to risk leaving the house. Yes, there were a lot of meetups. But rehearsal, luckily for that road trip that you saw, the very first one, which is a Valentine concert. Luckily, the music from there was from our old catalog. So everything was something that we either knew from before, way before, and if it was something we hadn't done in a while, it was just a matter of reviewing on our own first. And then we did give some time when we met up to go through it, but we had to do our assignments and really relearn everything.
And I'm also very proud of those two online musical specials because first, and that happened in February of 2021. That was Road Trip. And the second one was Christmas Road Trip in
Yes.
December of Feb 2022. And it all, December, right? It was
December.
all on ktx.ph.
Mhm.
And Sweet was our director and scriptwriter.
Yeah.
And OJ was also our assistant director. And in fact, very, very
Video
involved.
editor.
Yes, with the editing. So it was new terrain for company because we were like a factory. Everything was in-house, the audio
Yeah.
and the video component. And it was very good. We all learned from that.
It
Maybe
was.
Sweet would like to talk about the process, and OJ.
Yes, I'd like to hear from Tito OJ. You've been quiet since we started.
Sorry, I'm just so frazzled.
problem.
I've been having problems with my device. But anyway,
That's all right.
not just to expound on the road trips. I want to talk about all our other corporate shows which were online.
Yes, please.
We had to produce everything by ourselves.
Yes.
It was like it's what we called sariling sika productions. We had to make our set at home, and then we had to do our own makeup, our own production design, and we also had to record ourselves because it's really difficult for a quartet to produce something like that. It's not as easy as one who's a solo singer. He just records himself, videos himself, and that's it. But we have to put together all our vocal tracks and then put them all together. And then we all got the track with all of us in there, and that's when we recorded. It was really difficult, but we got the hang of it, and we went through some other stuff like what Sweet did. We had this quarantines. I think that's where it all started. We were just asked to produce performance videos, but it was Sweet's brilliant idea to make a story out of it, and it looked like a mini musical. It was very beautiful. Tama, di ba, Direct Sweet?
Yes, Tita Sweet. You're next on my hot
Maiba
seat.
naman kasi, di ba? Well, kasi I was teaching musical theater on Zoom. So, ang hirap at first ng 2020, but Trumpets Play Shop, we wanted to try it out. So, ako bilang, I always wanna up the standard, even if it's a bit complicated. And then after a while, we got used to it. So I wanted to suggest to the group na let's do something we haven't done before, and it's online. So ang hirap kasi like umaarte kayo na hindi naman kayo magkakasama. So
yes,
so
for sure.
But so per frame, so and we were able to do it naman. I will always be proud of that first one, the Quaranthemes, no? Tama? Quaranthemes?
Yeah, Quaranthemes.
So it's the parang anatomy of a love story. It's not just the happiness and joy, and also the pains of love. Yeah. So there, it started there. And then pag meron na kami inquiries from corporate, gusto nila rin na parang music video, hindi lang itong ganyang na sing lang. So, gagawan din namin sila. So, sarap. Ang saya na experience.
I just want to add a little side story to the quarantine thing, because it was Sweet's idea, but she asked me to it was like a wall that she bounced ideas with. And
you're a wall.
A big
Even
wall,
for a recital, I remember.
So, I was helping her conceptualize it.
Yes.
And I distinctly remember we would have so many video calls to bounce ideas with. And then we called it the opening night. You were so nervous. And then right after, we called each other and we were crying. It was like an opening night.
Yeah, because see, OJ sent me that afternoon, sent me a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
Talaga nagkuminom kami while we're watching, and then talagang iyak talaga kami kasi first alam mo parang oh my God, we were able to do this.
Diba? It really felt like a show, a real legit show, a Broadway or musical.
But it is a real legit show. Even if it is online, it still takes up a lot of preparation, especially because this isn't a setting that we're used to, especially like in the first few years. We were all just trying to get our footing. Like even us, we had to learn how to be our own techs, as opposed to before we just go to the studio and sit down. Now, Tita Sweet, everyone is calling you the master
Sorry, alam mo na rin,
conceptualizer and director.
teacher sweet pa rin yung ano ko dito. Hindi ko na pa rin. Sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. But
Anyway.
how do you think of these unique concepts for not just your shows with the company, but also for your students? Since you were able to carry out many successful Zoom and pre-recorded recitals throughout the pandemic. How do you get these concepts? How do we innovate?
To be really honest, God's grace talaga yan. Because before I start a class, especially musical theater class,
yes,
hindi ko pa alam yung gagawin ko talaga. So once I meet the students and hear them sing and give them the improvs and okay. And then wala na, dire-diretso na, I would think of okay, this complicated. Pero sige. So kaya. Again, kasi nga, mataas standard ko pag ganyan. Kasi also to push myself also. And to make the parents also parang happy also na, yung mga anak namin are able to do this. So parang, especially yung last year na summer stock kids ko, talagang parang the parents were amazed. But because I had a bunch of amazing kids also, so I was able to do that. Pero ano talaga, hard work from them also. And to put it together, medyo challenging and complicated. Buti na lang I'm blessed with a techie husband. So he mixes for me. Yes. And then si OJ would help me also with the editing. So nahasa naman talaga si OJ with editing also.
I can only imagine how difficult it can be to stitch all of those videos together, especially like when you were in the car and if I remember correctly, some of your videos were cell phone videos that you were taking like during the performance. And at the time I was taking an editing class, so I was thinking of our continuity lesson and I was like, oh my goodness. Hats off, amazing. So one by one, I want to know, what are some non-music related skills that have helped you in your career? So either as a group or individually. Like it can really be anything. It can even be something you picked up over the pandemic. So, Tita Annie, you want to start?
Sorry, nag-choppy. Half of what you said I did not get. Sorry,
okay.
Sorry.
No problem. Non-music skill that has helped you in your career as a musician.
As a musician, okay, non-music. I think it's non-musical, huh?
Some people tell me like talking skills because like you have to know how to talk to people or like teamwork, so anything like that.
Okay, I get that. Okay, in the beginning, I remember as we started, I did not want to have any solo parts because I said I'm a group singer. I don't do solos. So that's musical, no. But also the being able to speak to the audience, that was also something I did not think I could do because Moy was the one who kept talking. So I said, let Moy do all the talking. But you really need, that's one thing you have to get to be able to do, speak to your audience, and so they can relate and they can, that's one thing. The other thing, of course, also is it was something that I guess I had with me. It was my people skills, where I also am able, because I took psychology as well, because I also wanted to teach little children in college. That's what I thought I'd end up doing, which I do in my music classes as well. But with the company, it's learning to balance or learning to speak to people, to especially my co-singers, when there were tricky and sometimes very personal things that we need to bring up. So these are things that's another thing I had to I took upon myself as well to share with the group, to be able to help the group as well, navigate our differences in whether it's opinions or priorities or whatever it is. But with being a group, you really need to know how to navigate these relationships.
For sure.
Another would be, well, no, musical na pala yun. Yeah, maraming musical. I did learn a lot of musical things because I came into the group with, just knowing basic reading, but that was all. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Who do you want to pass the mic to? Who's that? I think we're different.
Sorry.
I think we're different.
Yeah, we're different.
Layouts.
Ayan,
Yeah.
si OJ. Yan, OJ.
Me. I got it. Non-musical skill, I think would have to be, I actually enrolled in UP College of Fine Arts before I transferred to College of Music. But I took like 2 semesters, just 2 semesters, because I was really starting to work already as a singer. But anyway, I think that's the skill that I've been utilizing ever since. Prior to professional singing, I've been singing in choirs. And I've always been a visual kind of person. So there were instances, at most of the time, I would use, like, for certain songs, I would use colors to shape whatever it is that I want to convey, or a certain image, like a sunset. I would use a sunset to ride on as my image for a particular song, a particular line. So I think that was the thing that really helped me, because unlike Annie, I'm not really a people person. Unlike Moy, I'm not really a talker. So I'm just really, I'm very visual and it's all based on intuition, I guess, and instinct, I guess. Yeah. That's it.
All right.
Passing
the mic.
it to Sweet.
Where are you passing it to?
Sweet.
Ano ba yun? Ang hirap. Parang all my life, it's always, everything is musical. But, siguro, people skills also. I'm good with people.
Skills.
Directing.
Music pa rin yun eh. Well, art pa rin yun. Pero magaling ako mag-organize ng mga events. Pwede ako maging events planner. Mga multitasking ako talaga, even when I was single pa. I will get the job done quickly as long as sumasagot naman yung mga tao or something. So that's one thing I enjoy doing, organizing people, calling, writing events, ganyan. And ano ba? Multitasker ako eh.
Yes.
Hanggang kaya. Minsan nga, may ginagawa ko iba talaga yung brain ko, may iniisip na iba. So, yun siguro. And siguro yung, hindi talaga ako super extrovert noon. Hindi naman hanggang ngayon naman. Meron, ako, introverted, extrovert. Pero once ma-start ko na yung something that I want to start, like, halimbawa, meron akong leadership skills. So, I think it's very natural sa akin na mag-lead ng anything. Like, kasi lalo na pag, walang nangyayari. Sayang ang oras, parang ganon. So, pag walang nag-step up, I will step up.
Yes.
Pag wala nag-step up, pero I know, I respect boundaries, kung ano lang yung job ko, gagawin ko. If I'm not being asked to do it, I will keep quiet. But if you ask me to help out and step up, I will do it. So, yun. Yun siguro. And of course, being a mommy,
of course,
you have to be, talaga, a good multitasker.
Yes.
Yeah.
As your student, I have seen that firsthand. Like sometimes you're vocalizing me while taking notes, while telling your husband to tell the kids outside to, to stop
Wait lang,
screaming. Yes, exactly. While your
kasama
baby's
yun.
crying and you're like, wait, and then the dog's barking and everything magically goes under control.
Yes. Hirap eh. Everything, you hear everything. So,
Yes,
so
yes.
there.
All right, Tito
Okay,
Moy,
Moy.
the mic is
Oh,
yours.
very lolo. Talagang nag-unmute pa. Sa akin, similar to Annie, what we took up in college was definitely utilized, and it served my career, the company's career. Just like you, Max, I took up
Yes.
communication arts in Ateneo. And that involves, well, to answer your question, marketing the group. I'm able to do that. Also, writing scripts, writing shows, a lot of production work, writing, production, marketing, and semiotics. You know, you send out semiotics, you send out signals and codes, visual codes. So
Yes.
I believe I have that skill on where to go visually with a group, and also performance wise, if it feels right and you have an inspiration, and I try to lobby my artistic ideas to the group and try to win them over to tell them why we should go this way, direction wise, visually or performance wise. So that's very important to me. As the group can attest, how we present ourselves to the world visually.
Yes.
Because although the meat and bones of our craft and our work and our art is music, is audio, you cannot deny the fact that this is a business. And that's why we have like Annie and Sweet, who are very good with numbers and the business side of things. But also it has to do with a lot of marketing. Most especially, Max, I know that you've released many singles, either solo or with your father, Gino Cruz, who is a well-known composer and arranger. In a market that is very, very, very saturated, every Friday, at least 10,000 singles get released into the world. So you have to fight to stand out.
Yes.
On top of the 10,000 singles this week, and then it just compounds. So I think we did a good job surviving 37 years. 37 years in this very unforgiving but very rewarding industry. So yeah, it's marketing, basically marketing and writing and producing.
Yes, that's right. I really see how all of you have such good chemistry as friends and as co-workers. And as you said, all of you have these different skills that put together makes the dream work. So now let's talk about your new album, Gitna. And I actually have a story. I was listening to this earlier because I was going to class and my professor got kicked out of his own Zoom call. So me and a few others were stuck in the waiting room and I was listening to Gitna. And I was having a good time. Like I was having a good time, enjoying listening, waiting, still waiting after 10 minutes to be admitted into class. And all of a sudden the song Gitna comes on. And I start crying. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this song is so nice. And I don't know, it just hit me right in the feels, as someone my age would say it. And I just started crying. So when I was finally let into class, my eyes were puffy and I was like, oh gosh, wait, like off cam, everything, panic mode, panic mode for a bit. And then, of course, carried on with class. But my gosh, it was such a nice song. The lyrics, how it was performed, and that theatrical bit in the bridge, it was so good. Like such an amazing, amazing song. So yay. So whoever is willing, please tell me like the story of how this song came to be. Was it written before the pandemic, or this album actually was this before the pandemic, during the pandemic? Anyone can start.
Oj?
Yeah.
Anne?
OJ.
Oj.
The song is originally composed and originally performed by Davy Langit.
Yes.
He was a student of, I think, all three of them, but more specifically Sweet during PDA. And
yes.
it was just a beautiful song that we all fell in love with. We
Mm-hmm.
were upon conceptualizing the album, we were given this huge catalog of Star Music. We were made to choose songs from this fantastic catalog, and this one really stood out. We had like lists, all of us, but minimum of 15, and then I think all of us had that particular song in our lists. And it was just something that you had to, when upon listening to it, parang you had that feeling that you had to perform it at least once in your lifetime. It was just that magical. And the story, it's a typical contemporary songwriting technique that's very popular nowadays since it's contemporary. But it's just that it's the storytelling. It was just something that it's either you can relate to, or you can fall in love with, or you can just really see. It was like something that's unfolding right in front of you, just using the words, the melody. It was just it's fantastic. I don't know what else to say. I just love the song.
Of course. And what really pushed it forward, of course, are the performances. The four of you, how you sang it so soulfully. It was an experience. Like, it was amazing. I will not run out of praises for this song and this album, because I think some of the people my age will agree to this, but one thing that we look for in albums now, strangely enough, I noticed this was a trend amongst people my age, is the cohesion or flow of how an album goes, because not a lot of people like that we usually listen to think about that. Like sometimes it's just, okay, this song, but the whole flow of this album seemed to have been so well thought of, because it starts with a song called Kumusta Ka, and like that's literally the first thing we ask each other when we see each other, especially now. And then there you have a good balance of those songs. Right after Gitna is Disco Plantita, so all of a sudden from feeling like emotional, bigla you're happy. So was this intentional? Was this okay, it
the
is.
Genius of Moy. Yan ang kanyang
Oh,
genius.
wow.
Thank you, Max. Thank you, Q. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Max. Thank you, first of all, thank you for your very, very heartwarming affirmation.
Oh.
We really worked hard on this album because this is our pandemic album. Aside from that, we also had to make sure that everyone was safe and didn't catch COVID. But thank God, thank God talaga. We worked on the album for, I think, 12 sessions, but none of us got COVID from each other. Talking about Gitna, of course, we all loved the genius of Davy Langit. He was, as OJ mentioned, he was Sweet's student in Pinoy Dream Academy Season 1, the season wherein it produced Yang Constantino. This is 2006. And ever since, that man has had a good heart and has always been passionate about music. And it shows in his songs. Company, all four of us chose this because it wasn't your generic OPM love song. It was about a very specific and painful and relatable situation, predicament. And of course, me naman, I know that one of the core skills of OJ and Sweet is musical theater. And
Yes, yes.
they were the leads in the Philippines' most successful musical called Rack of Ages. They were the leads. So
Yes.
this reflected or echoed their character in Rack of Ages. And the way Davy Langit wrote and articulated the song, you could hear hints of Jason Mraz because he loves Jason Mraz. But when we did it as a duet and there's spoken word, my family says it sounds like Hamilton.
Yes, I see
Yes,
that.
it's because of the very fast syllables. So it does sound it's like a Rorschach test, a musical Rorschach test.
Yeah.
The listener takes different things from the different songs. But with Gitna, I have to honestly tell you that every time OJ and Sweet perform it live, because Annie and I do the backup vocals,
Yes.
and we sang it live. Well, it's gonna come out in May. We sang it for an ABS-CBN show. Every time we perform it, I get goosebumps because it's a type of song wherein it's a ride. It's very cathartic. It's a journey. And when they go to the apex and the peak of the song, and that rap battle between Sweet and OJ,
that part.
even us on stage, and even us, as you can see with our background there, that's the music video of Gitna, which is on YouTube. It was this beautiful, beautiful music video directed by Miko Pelino for Star Music Philippines. It was just so beautiful. When we saw the first cut, the first edit, we were in tears because he did it so well. It was it was like what Sweet wanted and requested the director to do, something cinematic and not cliche, so that you have something new to say. It was very, very cinematic. And even while we were filming it, OJ, Sweet, Annie, and I were in tears, especially with that rap battle song, because yun nga, it's so intense and they do it so well. So we're very proud of we want to tell all of your viewers to check out Gitna. It's on Spotify, the song Gitna and the album Gitna, and the music video of Gitna. It's on YouTube. It's I think one of our best works in our 37 years. It's one of our best outputs. So we're very proud of that, and thank you for liking it, Max.
I'd like to add also that I think it's the magic of Moy's backup vocals as well, his arrangement, how he made Sweet, how he assigned certain lines to Sweet and OJ as well, because originally it was a solo. The answering back and forth, and then the beautiful music also arranged by
Arnold Buena.
There you go, Arnold
And
Buena.
he was very, very collaborative. We said when there's a key change, it needs lift. So we need high strings to go with the lift. So when there's a key change and we sing the chorus for the last time, after this big fight between the two protagonists, there is lift because of the strings. And then with the music video, when we come to that part and there's a key change and the high strings come on, there's a drone shot. So you can't really blame us. You can't blame us for being in tears, because the movie in our mind was realized with this music video.
Yes. And I think at a time like now, like this type of song, those types of visuals, we need to see things like this to feel something, And I don't know, it just makes you feel emotions that you didn't know were there, but help you release these emotions anyway. Okay, so before I move on, I just want to acknowledge some of the comments that have been here since our first hour. So Dennis Hadap, thank you. He's my hairdresser. He cuts my hair well, nicely. To Maria Victoria Eda Ponan, good afternoon to you too. Thank you for always tuning in. Tito Moy, I'm sure this for you from my dad. The hands emoji. from our co-producer Ian Bundok, break a leg for the company.
Thanks,
And then
Ian.
for Tita Sweet from Karen Villorente Tunido, hi Teacher Sweet. So your
Yes,
fans
hello,
are
Mommy
here with us
Karen.
today.
Thank you for viewing. Thank you for viewing.
So one thing also that I noticed about your group is you're very good at using your platform, not only for music, but also for your advocacies and things you believe in. And look, I didn't get the memo about the color scheme today, but it's really nice to see how you use your platform to elevate your voices. And Tito Moy told me a while ago that your college experience was similar to mine because we were both having our college experiences through very historical events. And these historical events obviously take up a lot of space in your head, making it a little bit harder for ACAD. So, for students like me who are living through this very historical period of our lives, what advice would you give to us? What can you tell us to help us find this balance between the activism that Ateneo encourages and still doing well in school?
That's a wonderful question.
Thank
What
you.
Maxine, for all of the listeners out there, what Maxine is referring to, before we came on the show, Maxine is doing her thesis now in 2022. And in 1986, when we did, Annie and I did the People Power, of course, Sweet and OJ were also there, but they were so much younger. But kami, we were done with almost done with Ateneo. It was also my thesis here in 1986. So I think Annie can really answer it because for me, I was young. Wait, 86. So that means I was
I
21.
was done with school, but
I was
yeah.
21. But Annie, in hindsight, I couldn't see the bigger, the larger picture of how this moment, 1986 and 2022, is actually a seminal moment in your life wherein it is a life highlight and it will not happen again. It doesn't have, it's just like Halley's Comet na minsan lang talaga to mangyari. So you have to be aware of the magnitude of the responsibility
For sure.
to be a part, to be on the right side of history. Because if you love the Republic, you want leaders who will take care of democracy, human rights, and the economy. I was very, very lucky because as I was doing my thesis, Father Nick Cruz was my thesis moderator, the late Father Nick Cruz. All of our teachers could see the larger hand of God happening in 1986. It was more important to get rid of the Marcoses, who have been in power since 1965. So that was, wait, mahina ako sa math. Ilang years yon? 65 to 86. So 26 years. But the teachers were lenient, but we still had to submit the requirements. So they weren't very nitpicky with your thesis, even with your ano nga yung tawag, Annie, ano yun, Max, yung internship wherein you were
yes, practicum.
They weren't so in fact, full disclosure, they didn't require me to do practicum anymore. My classmates like Bill Velasco, who is this newscaster in ABS-CBN, and David Fabros, another classmate who is a producer in ABS-CBN and who became a filmmaker, they all went to ABS-CBN to take their practicum. Yes. But since magulo na, hindi na ako ni-require ni Father Nick mag-practicum. So it's finding the balance actually to all the students going through 2022, finding the balance wherein you have to be responsible enough to pass and make your QPI average grade, but also seeing what's important, what is more urgent at the moment. So it's finding that balance. And Annie was very quick in telling me that, because during the first few days of EDSA, People Power Revolution, I was just so angry because it destroyed the rehearsal schedule of the company. I said,
Oh no.
oh gosh,
Yes.
it's messed up. But Annie said, this is bigger than company. This is Philippine history happening in front of you. So Annie, would you like to add anything to that?
I guess there's really no one. There's not one answer for this. I guess each one who goes through this, even like for us now, between work and having to do what we have to do, it's just finding that balance. Really is and what that balance is only you can say. How much of your work or in school and actually our work, how much of it you're willing to give up, and if you do give it up, what are the consequences of that, and if you're willing to hopefully take on those consequences, and then you will actually find your way, because as long as you know what the consequences are and you're willing to take those chances, then you'll find that balance, really, because there's no one answer. Someone who says, I know I'd want to just concentrate on my studies, then that's their priorities. Then I think that's his or her priority.
Case to case, no cookie cutter answer.
Yes.
But yun nga, for people like you, you're a senior, you will know it in your heart. Alam mo sabi ni Oprah Winfrey, if there is doubt, don't. Because some people will say that's the whisper of God in you saying, wait. But, if it feels right in your heart that this is the right thing to do, even with company being very active politically, we've never been active politically. Well, that's not true. We've never been this active politically, but it has reached a point wherein we have to fight for the future of the republic, of our children, and our economy. Sa tagal namin, nakakapagod maging palaging galit, nakakapagod maging hopeless. Here is a chance on May 9 for us to change the trajectory of our republic, and the four of us took on the chance, and we're betting on Leni Robredo because she is the right choice for this republic and this economy. We believe in her, and we can tell you when we interact with her off stage, she's the same person. She doesn't talk to you in a politician's voice or makes this grandstanding. She's a mom. She's a single mom who never wanted this for her life, but was thrust into, maybe it was the hand of God that thrust her. I mean, her husband had the political ambition. She just wanted to be a good mom. And we are backing her up because we truly believe if this door closes on us, we can't live with ourselves. We have to go all the way in. Maybe Sweet and OJ would like to expound on our advocacies, on our our activism.
Well, I was gonna add lang to parang since it's easier now, like with millennials or your age, of course, study is very important. You have to do it. You have to focus, but you can still help out. Everything is online anyway. You can still put yourself out there online. Every day you can post something. Ang laking support na, no? It's very, very important support also. It's also, of course, iba yung to go out there. It's an experience also. If you have the chance, go out and be with the real people. Ibang experience rin talaga. And then most of your, to find your balance also, because school is very important also. And if like now, if you're doing thesis or graduating, you have deadlines. So, but you can still show your support and make your stand known, because everything is online, and you're all on
That's
social
so
media
true.
anyway. So there, kami were very, we were not this, not this active before, but
Yes.
it's a, ano na to, do or die na. We have to win.
Or die mismo.
Deadline.
May deadline na talaga to. I don't know
We're in
if
the end game now.
Yes, end game na
Yes.
talaga. If the
Yes.
Lenny Kiko tandem don't win, I don't know how to bring up my children in a country like this. So praying talaga na
Oj?
yun
Of
na.
course.
This is
Tito
it.
OJ, for you, I want to bring this question a step further, actually. But us being the social media generation, it's so much easier to talk, but so much harder to be listened to because it's so easy to like throw what you want to say into the pot. But it's also a lot harder to be listened to because number one, someone will always have something to say and it may not be in line with what you believe in, or it may get lost in all the noise. So, from your perspective, how can my generation be more responsible when we participate in all of these conversations online?
It's a basic concept that I've always been sticking to. Think before you click. There's always a more strategic way of dealing with all these things. Well, like what you said, being in social media and the younger people being more adept to accessing this, to communicating through social media, it's a double-edged sword because sometimes your easy access, your affinity to social media can also be it can cause toxic feelings for you.
Yes.
I actually wanted to say earlier, if you really want to be a participating member of this movement, it will take a lot of courage because it's a very vicious battlefield right nowadays, and it's getting more and more vicious because the opposing. We don't want to name them, but the opposing party, they're really gunning for everything. They're putting all of their eggs in and all of their money, I think. So for me personally, I always try to dip myself into that, but at the same time, before I step into the battlefield, I just take a step back. I breathe in. I muster all the courage, all the strength, all the that you call this motivation that I can get from myself, from what it is that I believe in, and then that's when I step in because it's really crazy out there in social media. I mean, just on our Facebook page, whenever we would have these posts for Lenny. Oh my God! It was like every second there's a troll grabbing at So we take turns in blocking them, in reporting them. It's because it's really no use confronting and replying to all these people. It's hard, but it's our responsibility as responsible human beings and Filipinos.
Yes, that's right. Tito Moy, you're raising your hand.
Yes, Max, since this is an Ateneo-based program, online program, I'd like to talk to all of the Ateneans out there. I'm sure your enlightened professors will be able to integrate the applications of their lessons into what's happening now in the world. Like example, are you still required to take 16 units of philosophy and 16 units of theology?
Yes, we are. We are.
So there, with Theo, let's go back to the term praxis. It's about walking your faith. I mean, walking the talk. I mean, so whatever you believe in, if you believe in Christian Christian tenets and principles, you should be able to walk it. You should be able na papanindigan mo to call out when a wrong is a wrong. And also with philosophy, all of your lessons in philosophy, use this time now. If you see the conflict within yourselves and outside of the world, use this time to have some introspection and try to analyze what is for the greater good, what is for the good of your family, but what is for the greater good of the republic. So magagamit yung inaral nyong theo at philo. For me, I mean, I'll be honest, I detested learning philos because the oral examinations were nerve-wracking.
Oh my gosh, yes. They were.
But the twist is, the most important courses, subjects I took in Ateneo were not my communication arts subjects. It was the Theo and Philo, because they give you a blueprint on how to navigate this very, very slippery slope called life. So gamitin nyo ang praxis at magis, yung tinuturo ng mga teachers ninyo on how to handle this love revolution, this pink revolution that we have. Now is the time. Archbishop Desmond Tutu of Africa said, people who are neutral in a time of oppression have sided with the oppressor. Now is not the time to be a fence sitter, because if you are, just to be safe, to keep your business safe, to keep the family safe, to keep your brand safe. By being that, you have sided with the evil one. So you have to take a stand if you are on the right side or the wrong side of history.
As Hamilton said, history has its eyes on all of us. Now, for my fellow Ateneans who are currently in school during this online setup and we do not have praxis right now, to sum everything up, it's going down from the hill, as what Ateneo will always teach us. All of these lessons that we learn, no matter what the class, it's Ateneo teaching us to go down from the hill, to see the real world, and of course, to participate in it, to learn to make an impact, and to make sure that you leave behind, like you leave on this earth, the things you believe in. And that's our purpose as people. We immortalize the things that we want to stay in this world in order to make it better. And I know that right now we are a small college radio program, but the mark that I want to leave, especially after this year, is that hopefully we made some of you smile in a time where the world needed a really big group hug. So, to the company, before I thank you all properly, where can we find you? What are your socials? Where can people listen to your music?
Coach?
Who's in charge?
We have Facebook, the company. We have Instagram, the company Singers. We also have Twitter, the company Singers also. And we also have TikTok, care of Moy.
Oh!
And
wow.
He does all of that. We also have a YouTube page, the company. Oh, please stay. Sorry, I just read that.
Exposure.
We have YouTube. All of our music, all of our videos are there. If you want like backgrounders on the group or our performance videos from now to back then, that's all there. So follow us, and also our personal social media pages.
Individual. And we're also, all of our music, most of our music is on Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer. It's there. So please check out our brand new album under Star Music Philippines. It's called Gitna. It is our first full album in 4 years. It is our 29th album, and we want to thank all the bosses and the team in Star Music Philippines for making us a beautiful anomaly in the music industry. We've lasted this long, but people still are willing to listen to us and to invest in our albums. We are most grateful. And salamat kay Lord for making us
course.
last this long. And Maxine, thank you for being wonderful to us.
Thank you for coming. But before we officially say goodbye, there are things I need to say first. And the first is from our co-producer, Ian Carlo Bondoc, the company TikTok dance skills reveal, please. Well.
My God. No, you
Well-
won't see dancing from us there, but it's a lot of music-related content. May dignidad pa naman kami, joke.
Natawa lang siya.
Paru-paru G.
Oh my gosh. Well, even we're not on TikTok, but okay, I will leave the content for TikTok. And before we say goodbye properly, I will be asking everyone for their parting messages. So stick around, and hello to Ma'am Jen. So before we get to everyone's parting messages, before we say goodbye to everyone in the audience and to our wonderful, wonderful guests, please allow me to thank a few people first, because this has been New Wave. The thank yous earlier were cut, so thank you to Miss Isabel Sandoval for joining us from halfway across the world, and to Tani Cohen for helping us get everything together, to Therese Makasayat and Zoe Arroyo for joining our first half. And for this one, thank you to James and Sir Justin for handling the broadcast. Thank you to my wonderful co-producers, Ian Bondok and Mcgoy Arroyo. You guys are the best minions. Such a great support system for this show. Thank you for making things easier for me the past few months. Thank you once again to our audience for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you all next week and this year to come. It's a new month. It's a lot to look forward to. Now, don't miss out. Follow us on Instagram at newwave.rk to stay updated. And today, we officially launch our Facebook page and Facebook community group to commemorate a year of the show. So here, you'll find replays, additional content, engagements, and ways you could get featured on the show. So the links will be pasted in the comment section. So please go check it out. Don't forget that you can catch the replay on Radio Katipunan 87.9 FM's Facebook page, YouTube, and Twitter Live, all of which go by at Radio Katipunan. Plus, you can listen to this episode and many more as the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Anchor under the name New Wave. So for this episode, thank you to Francisco Jose Garcia, JM Capuz, and Ja for helping us stay in contact with the company. But most of all, thank you to our guests, Mr. Moy Ortiz, Miss Sweet Pantado, Miss Annie Quintos, and Mr. OJ Mariano for keeping us company this afternoon and celebrating our 1-year anniversary with us. I really wish we had more time. It was such a good conversation, and there's still so many things we want to know. But we're looking forward to seeing what happens next for the company, and we wish you good luck. So for parting words, I will say this in the order of how it is on my screen. Tita Sweet, you go first, then Tita Annie, and then Tito OJ, and then Tito Moy. Parting words for our audience. Let's go.
Parting words. Always thank you. Thank you from our hearts for having us always, and for always supporting us, the people out there who believe in us. Salamat po sa inyo. Even if we're not promoting our music, it's just the rallies that we join in this coming weekend. Kita-kita tayo sa Pampanga. Marami pong salamat sa pagtanggol sa amin. Wag po kayong magsawa. Pinagtatanggol nyo kami. Hindi na po namin kailangan magsalita. Marami pong salamat sa inyo. And Max, thank you for having us today, and thank you for your team.
Thank you.
And to all your batch mates, go out, make a stand, let your voice be heard, and at the same time obey your parents, and of course, and focus on your studies as well. And thank you, and God bless you. Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
More years for this little radio program. Continue lang. Yes. Carry on. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to say thank you first to you, Maxine, kasi you're such refreshing interviewer, and such a breath of fresh air. Talaga parang, even your questions, they're so interesting. It's such a, it's talagang ang sarap mong kausap ba. So, this
thank
is,
you.
this I
Ganyan yan
enjoyed
sa
myself.
lessons namin, Ani.
Ganyan, I see.
Maglalabas
Wow,
mamaya ng
thank
mga
you.
ano niya.
Ay,
Yes,
nako.
di ba?
See,
Okay, sige.
wonderful, wonderful. I enjoyed myself. I enjoyed listening to you and your
Thank
questions.
you.
And I'd like to say to everyone who's listening out there, you can ask your parents who we are. Malamang kabatch namin. Kabatch namin ni Moy. And I just hope that you take some time to try to discover the music that we have. Kasi it may not be your generation, but it's kind of timeless. You just might find something there that you will enjoy. But this new album we have, I think you will definitely enjoy because I've been getting good feedback from different age groups, age brackets, and I think try this out. You just might find something in the whole album that you will enjoy.
Yes.
At the same time, yes, like what Sweet said, please make your voices heard. Please go out and vote and help out in any little way, and that I think that little way would be in promoting and doing what our future president wants. It's to go out go down from the hill and touch the people that are around you. And just pay it forward and ask them to just pay it forward, and everybody will just be paying forward good deeds. And yes. So thank you to the whole team in your radio program, Max, and thank you for having us once again in your anniversary show.
Thank you. Tito OJ, you're next.
My turn? Okay.
Yes,
Once again, like what everybody said, happy anniversary and thank you for having us. It was a wonderful guesting.
Thank you.
I didn't really even feel that it was an hour already.
I didn't either.
Congratulations to you, Maxine, and
Thank you.
keep up the good work. To all our listeners, viewers, or for podcasts or YouTube or Facebook, we would like to invite you to listen to our new album, Gitna. It's especially for the younger listeners. It is across the board. It will give you something that you can relate to. It can give you something that you can be inspired by. It will bring you back to beautiful harmony singing that maybe you haven't been hearing for the past few years that you've been living, but it will give you something. It has something for everybody. So we really do hope that you stream that on Spotify or whatever digital platform that you have. And for our movement, I just want to say that just keep on fighting the good fight. It will be down to the wire. We only have how many more weeks left? I think the only thing that 3 weeks left. Oh my God, 3 weeks. The thing that it's our assignment right now as Kakampings, as supporters of our future president. It's going to be door to door or person to person. So it's about time that we reach out to people. I think the minimum right now is 3 people that you need to convert, either the undecided or either another candidate that he's leaning towards to. There are a lot of soft supporters for other candidates, and there are a lot of undecided voters. So it's time to really reach out, because even just one person that you convert, it can lead to so many more ripples. It can affect so many other people, because that person that you convert may be able to convert 2 people, and then it's a big ripple effect. So hopefully we will do our job, our responsibility as Filipinos, and ipapanalo natin to. I promise you.
Yes. Now, Tito Moy, take us home.
Wait,
Take us home.
before we do the message, a quick hello to Mike Francis Oropesa Mayores.
Yes, Mike. Hello, Mike.
Sweet and OJ are wearing your beautiful shirts on Saturday in Pampanga. Kami ni Annie nasa labada pa, sorry. So, hindi namin masuot. So, Max, congratulations. Happy first
Thank
year.
you.
Ian and the team in Katipunan, radyo-katipunan, thank you for having us. Thank you also to your dad, Gino Cruz, for arranging 2 songs on the new album, Gitna.
Yes.
He arranged Disco Plantito, Disco Plantita. Hi, Nala. Do you want to meet my dog, Enyo? Date kayo? Anyway, I digress. And also, another song that he worked on. If our listeners are familiar with Nica del Rosario, she's the singer-songwriter who wrote the hit now, Rosas, and Kay Lenny Tayo, and the dance hit of Sarah Geronimo, Tala. We have one song written by Nica del Rosario. It's called Ambon, and the dad of Max arranged it in such a very way. There are hints of trap music with the arrangement. Very progressive arrangement. Thank you, Gino. Thank you. Check out the new album. It's everywhere. Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer. It's everywhere. And YouTube. We're very proud of this. Thank you to Star Music Philippines. And on the activism home front, I echo exactly what OJ, Sweet, and Annie say. Go down from the hill. Get out of your bubble. It's scary. Especially if you don't necessarily have to go house to house, but if you have the courage to do that, then do so. But actually, simple things. If you're in the mall, talk to the people in retail, the sales force, or the people in security. If you're, or any manong or manang that you can talk to, kaibiganin niyo sila. Show them what Lenny is asking of us, that it's fun to be part of the pink love revolution. It is right to be it is right to be part of the pink love revolution. And it is driven, ang punot dulo nito is all about love for country and hope. So go down from the hill, escape that bubble, the Araneo bubble, and do the right and courageous thing. Now, minsan lang to nangyayari sa buhay ninyo. If you are granted by God, if you're lucky 80 years, minsan lang tong a year like 2022. Kami ni Annie and Sweet and OJ, we've been lucky. We had 1986 and this year. So stand up to the occasion and rise to the occasion. And it will be a wonderful, wonderful May 9. Let's just fight the good fight because God is always on our side.
Yes.
Lavard.
That's right. So thank you again, the company. And to our audience, thank you again for the past year. Many more to come. Have a blessed Holy Week to my fellow students. It's just a few more days. We'll be good. We'll be fine. Once again, I'm Max, and you know that when it's Wednesday, I've got your backs, and this has been New Wave. Thank you for joining us on our first year. I will see you all after Holy Week. Bye!
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
If it's entertainment you crave,
Catch us on
New
New
Wave,
Wave.
surfing through the latest on our shores.
Every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m.
See you there!
Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 radyo,